Right, hello. Hopefully I'm live, and maybe the live chat's going to work tonight, but I imagine I'm going to have to do the pop-out chat as usual. So as soon as some people get on, if I can't see any comments, I'll do the pop-out chat. So I've finished working for the weekend. I've started tidying a bit in here. I don't know if people can notice. That bit looks a bit tidier. There's stuff out of frame that's tidier. Because annoyingly, see under there where all the bows are and everything, I have to tidy those. That's where the internet comes into the house. So when the engineer comes in the week to hopefully sort out the internet problems, I need to clear a space in here. Oh, all right, Altrix. Right, good news is the regular chat's working tonight, so I don't have to do a pop-out chat and then keep switching between two. But yeah. So I've done a bit tonight, but a lot of tomorrow is going to be spent clearing out like the corner of this room. So when the person comes in on Tuesday afternoon to, repair the phone line or whatever they're meant to be doing, hopefully they can do it quite easily and I've not got a load of shit in their way. So hello everybody joining. I guess the notification for most people just went out because they're just joining now. So, yeah, so that's going to be a bit annoying, but hopefully once the engineer's been and then I put everything back, the room will, one, be a bit tidier, and the internet will be a bit more reliable and the speeds will be a bit better. But yeah, it's just a bit frustrating. All right, Ghost Jesus. So hello, everybody joining. So I said, not loads to talk about other than the fact I finished work for the weekend. Wasn't too bad this week, actually. Anything interesting in the news? Oh, government open to delaying lockdown end date. You know, I told you so, but you know. Yeah, because they didn't close the borders when the India or Delta variant, as we're now meant to call it, was coming in. Oh, we don't want to close the borders. Oh no. Oh no, there's an even more infectious strain spreading. All right, cool. TXE Gaming. It's a good check source for like having a safe thing that sets the Geiger counter off. All right, Burger King. Yeah, I'm all right. So hello to everybody. But yeah, there's nothing really very interesting in the news, in the UK at least, other than, oh, we might be in some sort of lockdown for longer because the government's fucked up again. Is that the guy, Ghost Jesus, who's run into the forest with some machine guns or something? Like he was a former army or special forces guy? I've heard briefly about that, but not enough, so people might have to fill me in on the details. As in, like, I saw it as kind of like, you know, when you're looking at the main news on one day, it was like on the side story thing, and I didn't really read it. But hello, everybody. I have no idea, Caleb, anything about the Israeli parliament. As in, like, isn't there some sort of thing where we try not to get too much into politics on here, like Benjamin Netanyahu, whatever he's called, who's been like the previous prime minister or president or whatever for ages. Isn't there like some sort of coalition that's forcing him out of power? You could certainly attach a thermal camera to a drone or, that sort of thing. But I don't know if there's any that come with it by default, at least for sensible amounts of money. Like you'd certainly be able, if you can get a wireless thermal camera, you could certainly probably attach that to a drone, like with cable ties or something, and then fly a drone around. But I personally, both my thermal cameras, like this one, you could attach and record with it, but obviously you wouldn't be able to see the footage in real time. You'd have to retrieve it and then get the footage that way. And obviously, bear in mind, if you crash the drone and you break the thermal camera, that's literally hundreds of dollars. In terms of night vision, you can attach a digital night vision unit to one pretty easily and record with it. The old optical night vision, no point, because it can't record video. Old-fashioned night vision is literally CRT technology. You know, you have to be looking through it with your eye or have a camera filming through it. It can't record by itself because of how it works, unfortunately. But, you know, in a few years, digital night vision will probably be more common, be better in a sense. I can kind of cover that, Isaac. I mean, what I can try and do is get photos from Chernobyl in a sense, and say, you know, this is this mask they're wearing, this is that mask. But a lot of it is just regular Soviet masks. And see that one there, PY60M, on the poster, that's the one most liquidators on the roof are wearing. If you ever see photos of liquidators on the roof with shovels. So yeah. Yeah, happy D-Day anniversary. I mean, D-Day isn't really a happy day, is it? I mean, obviously, it's very good in terms of the liberation of Europe, but a lot of good people died that day, you know. Yeah, it would be if you drone kamikaze, it'd be very expensive because yes, assuming that you could recover the footage from it, that's like $400 plus worth of just seeing it crash into something. All right, Steve. Oh, that'd be really cool, Ghost Users. Right, I'm assume Bunny wasn't there is going to say, you know, D's as in D's nuts. We were on about these awful things the other day, as in whatever the Candice one was that was awful, or Candice. What was it, Mike? That awful one that somebody tried to do to you and it didn't even work? Or what's it, like ligmables, those ones? I mean, they're generally pretty awful, aren't they? They're not very funny. It's like Mike Hunt is probably the funniest one, and that's old. They might do Gabriel. They've certainly got thermal cameras on helicopters. Whether or not they've got them on drones, I don't like. The technology would definitely exist for the military and police, you know, and they don't have to worry about the cost of it. Like I'm saying, regular people wouldn't be able to afford that unless they have, like, you know, a big budget YouTube channel that's specifically like for drone type stuff. So can these fit in your mouth, or can this fit in your mouth, or can this D fit in your mouth? Yeah. Oh, what, the really awful AA gun, Ghost Jesus, a Sergeant York. I mean, that would be interesting just because of how awful it supposedly was, the Sergeant York. Because don't get me wrong, I really like Spags or whatever they're called, as in self-propelled anti-aircraft guns. I mean, the Shilka's my favourite, but I mean, like, the Sergeant York's interesting, but didn't they use an aircraft's radar on it rather than the ground-to-air radar or something? And that's the problem it had with, like, not being able to target things properly. I know it didn't last very long as a project, but, you know. Yeah, that'd be good, Mike, if you can set up an Etsy and they don't take much money or whatever, and then you can sell stuff without people saying, can you make this, and then not buying it after you make it. Yeah, that's another one, isn't it? It's Skyend. I thought your name was Skynet then, but Mo Lester. Yeah, I mean, that's probably a better one, Mo Lester, in all honesty. That's really interesting, Ghost Users, because like I said, I don't know much about the Sergeant York other than it was a massive failure, like, you know, when they tried to get the funding for it and all that. Phil Mike Hunt, yeah. I mean, that's a triple-barreled name, isn't it, that one? The CM5, is that the panoramic one? I mean, the CM5 is probably going to be in really good condition regardless. Regardless. The Polish MP5, assuming it's a real MP5 and not a French ARFA, should be in good condition anyway, but... Yeah, I've got Trinity and Beyond on Blu-ray. We've brought Trinity and Beyond up a lot on these streams. Have you seen the other films the same director did? Trinity and Beyond's the best one, but they have done some more like Trinity and Beyond. Yeah, so basically it was a failed project then, Ghost Jesus. But yeah, like, it had all right guns on it, didn't it, Sergeant York? Because, like I said, as long as you've got good auto cannons on something like that, it should work very well. Right. It's your local doctor's wife. I have no idea how that... Oh, as in my hairy Hunt. Oh, all right, yeah. So it's pronounced Vary Hunt. Evan says, or even says, what's the story? Let me show you a comment. It hit it. With EU spec decom guns on D&D Malaria, does that mean it's decommissioned or something? No, you should still be allowed to buy pre-EU specs. I just think it's more can't be... Right, so basically with DAC guns, as far as I'm aware, and again, I think there's different rules for dealers than, say, you and me. Look on IMDb, there's you look up the director on IMDb and you can see all his films. Yeah, so it targeted shitters. Yeah, like I suppose that's a quick way of getting it cancelled, isn't it, Ghost Jesus? They nearly like gunned down the like the people observing it. All right, Chris. But basically, I think if you're like a retailer of deactivated guns, like not a regular person selling them, I think you can probably sell any inventory you have. But the thing is, it's like they can't sadly deact guns anymore. I mean, I'd rather a gun wasn't deactivated in the first place, but they can't deact them as far as I'm aware to old spec deact. That's why the price varies completely on, what condition. EU spec isn't that bad deacking. EU spec deacts, because my friend's an EU spec deac, seems to be that you can't open the receiver up, but like the charging handle moves and all the stuff like that. So my Bren, if you're playing about with the outside bits on it, like, charging handles, sights, all that, it seems fine. The problem is you can't open the receiver up or anything like that. Right, W2 Oasis and Stealth Camp. Yeah, I'm not bad, thank you. But, yes, so the... Oh, and I think my test was negative I did earlier. I need to report that. So there we go. Oh, look, I'm negative. I have to take these twice weekly because of work, but, as much as the lateral flow tests are meant to give false positives, I've not had a single one come up positive yet. So why is the UK government fascist? Do you know what the word fascist means? In terms of, do you know what like Benito Mussolini's ideology was of fascism? Because I don't think there's much resemblance between the UK government and fascism, Whereabouts in the UK, Adam? I don't believe you have to have all the paperwork with you with a gun if you're on private land. Well, it doesn't. It fully works in terms of you can move the charging handle, you can move the trigger and all that. It doesn't fully work as in it won't shoot. Like, obviously, they've welded it shut and they've welded the receiver shut as well. I'm all right, Thomas, thank you. You'd have to ask Flazzy on here, Adam, about gun laws in Scotland. Like, I know the UK mostly has similar gun laws, but they're not exactly the same in England, Wales, and Scotland. Well, I suppose a mass shooter would be stopped pretty safe. Not safe. Stopped pretty quickly there, Ghost Jesus, if everybody was packing heat. So Flazzy says you don't, as long as it's not out of the cabinet for too long, as in you put away when you're finished using it, you don't just leave it laying around. I mean, there's a pile of guns there, but I can't pick them up on the stream because YouTube will stop my stream, but I'm not handling them, so it's okay. Well, bear in mind, thermal cameras, if you mean proper thermal cameras, are very expensive. That's my point. Like, when we were on about this, like, yes, you can buy a thermal camera, like a FLIR camera, and you can, yes, tie it to a drone or whatever, like you would attach a GoPro to a drone, yes. The problem is the price of that isn't what most people would be willing to pay. ROC posts the free rooms, Top Hat Man. But I've already said what my plans are for him. Have you not listened? I don't mind explaining again if you don't know. But the point is basically you turn the one room that you've got, which is a fairly decent sized room, bed in one corner, probably have a desk in it, all that sort of stuff. You just organize it well. You know, if you watch videos from Asia, there are people who live in like one tiny room apartments. Scary algorithm, Chris. It's like a Skynet thing. What it does is, I think it flags something up when it thinks it sees somebody holding a gun or something like that. It flags something up to like some probably low-paid tech support type person. And then if it looks like in the little picture it captured, there's a person with a gun, they just delete the stream and then send you a warning. So because I've only had it once, they gave me a warning. But I think if I keep doing it, they just ban my channel. That's sort of strange, Fuzzy, isn't it? Like, you can shoot a deer, but you need a different caliber. That's kind of strange. All right, your mother? That sometimes happens on phones, Chris. I don't know if you're posting from a phone or the PC, but I know on phones sometimes. Right, your mother, if as you're on, this is the thing I'm going to be doing a video on, this one, and I'm not holding a gun in case YouTube thinks I am. This is a pistol crossbow. So you've got the IR laser, if I can get that to point at the webcam, just so I can actually show that it's got a laser there. Actually, it's easier to shine it on the wall, isn't it? There we go. So IR laser, the webcam can just about see that. There's an IR flashlight as well. Yeah, that's the IR flashlight. So again, you can't really see that, but it's there. Then you've got the regular flashlight. That's actually fairly bright on this. And you've got the visible laser, as in the red one. Let me turn the light off because you won't see that with the light on. But you can have them on in combination. And if you want, you can also have the light strobe. So, you know, you can have a disco with your gun. It's just, your mother, this one is more compact than the other one. It's smaller and they're brighter lasers and brighter flashlights. So compared to the other one I had, the PQ14, whatever it's called, this one just takes up less space on the rail, weighs less, and it's just a better quality thing. So it's like the same as the one I had in the video, but it's better, essentially. So, you know, this is just, it's called a D... there's the name of it for anybody who wonders. A DBALPL is apparently the name of it. I'm not getting it for prepping in mind, Top Hat Man. There was 1,500 odd of them built, so that doesn't really stand as a thing. They built a lot of them. They weren't like nuke targets themselves. And yeah, they were built before mutually assured destruction was a thing, basically. So earlier on in the Cold War, not everybody had high-yield hydrogen bombs with loads and loads of missiles to deliver them. What happened originally in the Cold War was that, like, planes would actually have to deliver bombs, and a lot of them were atomic bombs earlier in the Cold War. What changed the, like, you know, balance of everybody is going to die in a nuclear war is basically missiles and then hydrogen bombs on missiles. What, the laser, is it? What? How much is it coming up for? DBAPL. Ah, you see, as hype, you're looking at the proper American one, or like the you need to get the Chinese clone, like I've got. That hype link, hype sent me. I think they're like $30. But it's like just a Chinese exact ripoff of the same thing, but it's like the same, you know, exact same specs as the other one. I mean, 3D printing is interesting, but I wouldn't get into it, at least not until it gets cheaper. But yeah, get the Chinese one, ask Hype about it, and I'm sure he can sort one out for you. But yeah, if you like a PMK, get a PMK. I've been sent something on Facebook, so I'll have a look at that later. Has anybody seen Brawl? What's it called? Brawl in Cell Block $99. Because I was shown a bit of that at work and it looked pretty brutal. There was like a guy having his head stamped into the floor. So I'll probably try and see if that's online anywhere. But I've not seen it. Do you know which model it was? There's two models of that. If it's the Polish one, it was probably the 57A. But there is the 57A, which is a Gen 0 night vision unit, so it's probably not very good for most people. The PNV 57E is the Gen 1 Plus unit that's actually pretty good for when it was made. I bought loads of stuff from D&B Militaria, so I said I'd happily buy from them again. Right, Sister from Oz, I'm going to disprove your misinformation because obviously you don't know anything about how the vaccine works. But right, so I've had the vaccine. Here's some neodymium magnets. Look, it doesn't stick to me. Look, it won't let you post links because you're not a mod. Like, so look, here's the stupid thing, right? If you want to see how people con you with these stupid videos about like, oh, the vaccine's magnetic and all that, let me show you how they do it. Let me just get the broken bit of magnet off first, so I don't want that to cut into me. So what they do, if I can get the magnets separated, which is actually pretty hard to do because they're neodymiums. If I can get this off, and again, it looks like separating neodymiums is actually really difficult. I'm going to have to use the desk to do it. The fact you can see them with night vision and not with your eyes, your mother. So it's to aim. It's basically to aim while you're wearing night vision. Because like they show up to the webcam, but that's because it's a camera, and cameras partially see IR. But the right, I've got the fucker separated. So basically, look, I could go, oh look, the magnet's stuck to me. I've had the vaccine, it's stuck to me. It's because I'm doing that. Whoa, look, whoa, what's going on? It's because you've got a magnet behind. It's a really, really old trick. But yeah, the better ones are Gen 1 Plus, the other ones are Gen 0. Now, the interesting thing about the PNV 57A, though, is that it sees one of the biggest IR spectrums out of any night vision device, because it's a Gen 0. But the thing is, Top Hat Man, are they actually for sale? Because that's the problem. They can be there, but if they're locked up and somebody owns them and doesn't do anything with them, they're just sort of there. All right, Joshua France. FP5 filter, maybe $20 to $30 if they're in date. I don't know. It depends on how much of them like supplied on the surplus market. That's the problem with all this stuff. Like how much is currently on the surplus market. If there's not much, the price goes up. So yeah, the idea is, your mother, basically, if it's pitch black or whatever, you can have your night vision goggles on. You can have like a gun or whatever with an IR laser on it. And it means that you just look for the dot to aim, because obviously the problem is when you've got night vision goggles on, you can't shoulder a gun and look down it very well. There are like modified like rails on some guns, so you can have like an IR specific, holographic sight for night vision, but it's it's pretty difficult, because of how clunky the units are. So the idea with the laser is basically you can just kind of hip fire. That's how I was doing the crossbow in that video when it was dark. I have no idea, because I don't work for the Bundeswehr, or however it's pronounced. So I have no clue if they are buying the 416 or not. It'd be kind of cool to see the 416, actually in use or whatever, but I have no clue, because Oh look, I'm holding a gun. I hope YouTube doesn't think I'm actually holding a gun doing that. All right, ACM. Yeah, that's actually what they're for, flat cap, because it's basically, if you've got all the gear on, you can't actually look down a scope or whatever, because like a night vision optic is going to be like sticking that far out of your face. So the whole point of the IR laser is so people without night vision on, so say you had enemy troops and they didn't have night vision on, and they were just standing around, you know, with like flashlights or whatever, they can't see an IR laser with their actual eyes. But the night vision device you're wearing can see the IR laser. So basically, you can aim at them with the night vision on. You can see them because you've got night vision on. You know, you can aim with your IR laser, but they can't do that. I've never heard of a crossbow certificate. There's no such thing, Rhino Bushcraft. You can just legally buy a crossbow. That's cool, your mother. I have to look into that. I know Styro Pyro's done a video on an IR laser he built that set stuff on fire. That was built from old, like, Soviet tech. The IR laser on my thing isn't that powerful. As in, I wouldn't want to shine it into my eyes on purpose, because you wouldn't blink with an IR laser, even if it was bright enough to start causing eye damage. That's the problem with, like, IR and UV lasers. You won't even react to the brightness of them like you would with a visible laser, even if it's doing the same damage to you. But my one isn't, if I put my one against my skin like that, it doesn't really warm my skin up, so it's probably like 100 milliwatt at most, and not very focused. No, you don't need a license to get one in the UK. I'm assuming you're not from the UK and you think everything here requires a license when it really doesn't. Yeah, flat cap guy, same as here, basically. Well, the hunting rifle will be slightly harder to get in the UK. But in the UK, if you're 18, you can buy a crossbow. There was a thing recently where people wanted to make them harder to get or banned, but thankfully it seems like the government's gone like, no, the rules are strict enough, we don't need to ban them anymore, you know, than they already are banned. And thankfully it sounds like the stuff we were on about with the swords recently isn't coming through either. Never really watched the IT crowd or IT crowd, however it's pronounced. But, so thankfully, seems like I'm not going to have to lose this somehow, because it seems like the law is not changing on these. Thank fuck. Because, you know, that's a stupid rule, isn't it? If a cutlass like this isn't allowed, but a straight sword is, it's like, who comes up with rules like that? Yeah, exactly, Flazzy. Yeah, you can have a next day delivery of a crossbow if you want in the UK. You know, to be honest though, Flazzy though, and all the other people, I did honestly think before I found out about crossbows that they'd probably be more prohibited than they are, but they're not. You know. Which one's the Mark 7 AK bayonet? Let me Google it. If that's just like a regular AK bayonet, you mean this one? If this is a Mark 7, yeah, there you go. And I did find earlier when I was tidying up my room, so I put it here for the stream because I thought if bayonets come up. There we go. There's the Lee Enfield straight bayonet, because I was using this as a point that, you know, this is fine because it's a straight bayonet. As we were on about on the other stream, weren't we? Like different sizes of bayonets and like the practicality of them. But yeah, speaking of the guy who said he's from Australia. Now I don't know if that's gonna I don't know if this is gonna show up on camera very well. It's not. Let me put the other light on. But basically, if that focuses, this is at least the scabbard. I don't know about the actual blade, but this is an Australian-built Enfield bayonet. No, sorry, the bayonet itself isn't, sorry, because it's got the British mark on it. But for whatever reason, the scabbard, they've got a Australian scabbard for it. The Australian company that built them. But still, it's pretty cool. Well, if there was a war between China and the USA that went nuclear, it'd be of hydrogen bombs, not atom bombs, because atom bombs are pretty outdated now. I have no idea where that is, sorry, Top Hat Man. It's probably in a drawer somewhere. But the drawer I normally store my lighters in would be there, and it's not there now. because I've had to move it ready for when the engineer comes to fix the fucking internet, because the modem boxes for the internet are there, so I'm gonna have to take all that down as well, but I'm not doing that tonight. But I do ACM, but I'm allowed to show you the bayonet on the stream, but I'm not allowed to show you the Lee Enfield. Why is it people always PM me when I start doing a stream? Let me show you something, actually. I can't show you myself holding it, but I'm sure I can do this technically. There you go. I'll take the scabbard off so it looks cooler. Hang on. There you go. So I'm not technically holding it, but, you know, there you go. It gives you some idea of the length of the bayonet, doesn't it, when it's on a thing like that. I'll get that in frame now. Yeah. I love those giant old bayonets. Like we were saying, they're not very practical, are they, in a modern sense? But they're just cool because of the fact, like, oh, we've got a bayonet that's literally a short sword. Yeah, I'd have to show it properly. In a thing. In what sense, your mother, that it's full of clutter, or what the room looks like, or just because it's full of weapons, like a typical British house wouldn't be. But yeah. What I will say to people, though, is this is definitely the messiest room in the house. It's the one that looks the most like a hoarder house room, just because it's the one where nearly all the surplus goes, because for the most part, nobody, needs to use this room except me. Yeah, I love the foul, as you can guess, because I've got on a T-shirt. Oh, he's Austria, not Australia. Oh, sorry, Flat Cap guy. So it was completely irrelevant to you then about the Australian scabbard. But yeah, sorry. I've been to Austria before. I've been to Austria twice, actually. Once a couple of years ago. 2017, I think, was when I went to Austria recently. But I went to Austria as the first foreign country I visited when I was about 5, I think, when I was in primary school. Both times I went to Salzburg, actually, because Salzburg's really nice. But yes, I've been to Austria. Lovely country. I've got an Austrian rifle there, though. There's a Steyr or Mannlicher, however it's pronounced there. Well, I've fallen over in this room before, Justin, and stubbed my toe, and it hurts. But I've never fallen over and like broken my neck or impaled myself or something. So I don't leave like knives sticking up on the floor like that, or anything like that. You're more likely to just trip. Like say for example, see down there, there's the dumbbell. Like you're more likely to stub your toe on that than anything. I've done shit like that more often. But yes, there's a Steyr Mannlicher over there. So which is a cool gun, but like I think the Schmidt-Rubin's cooler from that period. What, that gas mask sign? If you're on about that one, that's from a firing range, supposedly. So, how, like, you have army, like, firing ranges and training ranges? They have to have different signs on those, like hazards for bits of the range. So some of them are like, like tanks crossing type ones of like, don't stand here because you could be run over by a tank or like armored vehicle. Like the bits they use for range. I think those are the ones where like CS gas or potentially real gases are used in training exercises. It's like a pretty old sign. It's like, you'll notice, see, it's like a traffic sign. That's literally what it is. It's a traffic sign. It would be on like a post, like on the section of the road. So, if you're driving there, you'd know like, oh, I can't go into this bit without a mask on. That's basically the point for it. All right, Brighton. What about the electrician WT Oasis? What do you mean by that, Top Hat Man? Which bit's like a Tipex? Do you mean on the pregnancy strip type bit, or do you mean on another bit? But I won't fuck with them in the sense that, I need them for actually going to work, because if they say I'm positive, I then need to get a proper like PCR test or whatever it's called, and like I'm not allowed to go into work because of the containment, like contamination risk, whatever it's called. But I'm interested in what you mean by that. But like I said, I wouldn't fuck about with them on purpose, as in like, oh, I want to get a fake result with it. Yeah, WTA Oasis. Like I've said, I'm going to be clearing some of it out. I'm not moving the guns. Like, if he looks at them and is like, "Can you own those?" I'm just going to be like, "Yes," because that's the honest answer. But my point is that I'm not going to like move loads of the stuff out the way. You know, if he looks at the guns and thinks that's weird, he's entitled to think that. I hope you haven't had any side effects, Joshua. And when I say side effects, I mean just, like feeling achy or tired, because I did when I had mine. Not my second one, I did on my first one, but it's good you're protected. In about 3 weeks, you have full protection, don't you? Yeah, but Flazzy, even if it was in the background, people wouldn't read it. Because there's times of that clock, even when I've had it closer to the screen before, it could be about here, you can clearly read it, and people say, like, what is the time where you are? Why is it Pope Hour? 08:38? I don't get it. Maybe I'm being dumb. It smells like, at the moment, this hasn't got a label on it because it was in the outer packet, but it smells like laundry. I've got one of those laundry things in here, so it smells like fresh linen. It doesn't really, if it had a smell, it'd be just kind of like some, whatever the word is, if you have loads and loads of smells mixed together of like random bits of milsert. But I generally just have like some sort of fragrance thing in there just so it smells a bit nicer. The banana oil is not stored in this room, Brightold, but yes, if I had enough banana oil in here, it smells like banana oil. I think you can have it on 24-hour, but I've got on 12-hour. So by 08, it means 8 p.m. As in, So it would be 20:39 at the moment, if it was on 24-hour, but it's on, 12-hour. So it's on 08:40 at the moment, but, But the weird thing, though, you were saying about Logan, is if it's your own house, you can never really smell it, can you? Because whenever you go to other people's houses, you notice there's a smell, but you obviously become accustomed to what your house smells like. But yeah, Oh, I see why you said it now, Flazzy, because somebody said, what's my favourite mask? My favourite mask is visibly behind me. No, I only use Twitter, Top Hat Man, to PM a couple of people. That's all I do on Twitter. If I could just have it for PMs and not even have a public Twitter page, that's how I do it, but you can't do that on Twitter. So I only found out the other day. Pull that out of the CT12. I doubt it will want to focus on it, will it? Because the lighting's not going to be good enough. Oh, it does say model CT12. Oh, thank you very much, Richard. He said, bought a US Army compass dated 02-1960. Researching it, might have radium-226. Should I be worried with an experience? Right. I wouldn't panic about it, but what I would recommend you do is get an airtight plastic box to store it in. Basically, so the only reason you want to do that is radium-226 decays into radon, and when it's radon, it's airborne. So any of my radium stuff, I always keep it in airtight containers. That way you don't have radon just seeping into your house. But even if they absolutely doped that compass in radium-226, it's not going to have enough gamma energy for the gamma to travel very far. So obviously, don't put it under your pillow or somewhere like that. You can have it on display, just make sure it's not somewhere that people are going to be like stood or sat right next to all the time. But for the most part, yeah. Also, be careful when you handle it, just in case the paint flakes off. Because obviously if radium paint flakes off and it gets on your hands, there's a chance you could ingest it or inhale it, or, you know, like scatter it around your house. But yeah, if it has radium-226, all you want to do is keep it in an airtight container when you're not using it. If you've had it in your pocket for an hour, you'll be fine. My granddad is 96. He's still alive. And for like 40 years of his life, he wore a radium watch. So I wouldn't worry too much about stuff like that. Because, again, you're going to get some gamma and beta coming off of it if it is radium-226 and it's in your pocket. You know, which I would definitely not recommend you keep stuff like that in your pocket. But in terms of short-term exposure, bear in mind it's the quantity of radium in the paint and then how much paint there is on there. So some of my radium compasses, if you held them for an hour, you would get an annual dose of radiation that you'd get normally in an hour. But, you know, so if you had it in your pocket for an hour, and let's say it's doped in radium, you might have had 2 or 3 millisieverts of radiation. Let's say half a Rontgen of radiation, just to be really on the scary side. 0.5 Rontgen of radiation. That's less than if you had an X-ray at the hospital. Like, I wouldn't recommend it, because obviously the more time you spend where you're being blasted by gamma rays and beta rays, the higher probability that something goes wrong in your body. But it's certainly not in the time period where I'd worry about it. With ionizing radiation sources, it's more just if you're going to be around them day in, day out. Like most people who they found, you know, when exposed to sources that weren't that strong, in the sense of, you know, like being immediately dangerous to health, but had health issues because of it, it's because, like, they've been around stuff and not realised, like, day in, day out. There's one in Ukraine where there was a weak bit of cesium-137 that ended up in the wall of a building, and it killed several people over, like, a decade through leukemia, because, you know, the gamma rays from it were hitting them constantly. But, you know, if you knew it was there, you would not be, you know, sleeping in a bed next to it, but they didn't know that. But yeah, no problem, Richard. Thank you for the donation. But yeah, like I said, my opinion of what the radioactive stuff is, as long as you know what you're doing and dealing with it, it's actually really interesting and, like, fascinating. It's really more of a thing where, you know, people don't understand any of the dangers and do stupid shit with it, you know, where they risk affecting other people with it, you know, getting it on their hands and then licking their hands and stuff like that. Or, you know, the opposite, where people think radiation is really scary and we need to ban all forms of nuclear power, or, you know, anything like that because of, like, you know, oh, I know radiation is dangerous, you know, that sort of thing. It's just you have to be sensible with it. Like, they don't use radium anymore because there's other radioactive elements that can be used which are a lot safer and actually are probably a bit brighter. Like, the reason they use tritium now is, like, because tritium gives you a much, much, much lower exposure of radiation for something that can be a bit brighter. So sorry if sorry if I'm missing comments, but obviously I was answering what you said. Benito Mussolini, hello Mussolini, I thought you were dead, like from 1945, but somebody said Britain was fascist earlier. And I said, I don't think they know what fascism is because, you know, do you know Benito Mussolini is? He's here in the chat now. But anyway, he said, I just watched Fred yesterday, great movie, but I feel like it's a bit dramatic on long-term after effects. After 13 years, some amount of civilization. That really depends how bad the damage has been, I'd imagine. But I think Fred's was made just to scare people. You know, I think Fred's is the worst case scenario sort of thing. It's really hard to say, though, isn't it? Because we don't want to have a nuclear, like, you know, mutually assured destruction exchange to see how stuff comes about as a result. Well, I'll shout out Scotland the Brave if you want. Or is it Scotland the Brave on your thing? Yeah, I mean, the problem, Benito, is with growing crops after a nuclear exchange is, I suppose there's the two factors, isn't there? There's one, which is the amount of shit thrown up into the atmosphere killing sunlight. So you would be harvesting crops, but how good the crops are. But the other problem, I suppose, is radionuclides being absorbed into the crops through the soil. But I'd agree with you, there definitely would be forms of agriculture back within a few years, but how sustainable that agriculture is, I really don't know. Ah, that's good, your mother. That would be good when you get that. Which one's a Cobra Adder? Is that the really cool underlever one? Yeah, I suppose that's a good point, Top Hat Man, isn't it? It's essentially like something that could happen as opposed to a horror film that could never happen. Yeah, there's a comment, I don't know if it's still there, somebody was on about Trinity and Beyond earlier. There was a comment on the Castle Bravo clip from it, where it's uploaded to YouTube, saying this is fake, this is just a load of petrol they set on fire to pretend it was a nuclear explosion. It's like, you can fucking see the crater of Castle Bravo from space. Yeah, wasn't that actually a thing, Richard, where they actually, I think the US looked into doing that, potentially doing like inside hydroponics or whatever they call it, during the Cold War in case it needed to be done. Like, again, there's lots of cool stuff for the Cold War of like, you know, where people thought maybe we can try this sort of thing or try that thing. And like, thankfully, everybody didn't end up living in bunkers or being incinerated or dying from radiation poisoning. We never had to find out. But some of the things about, like, you know, the planning for it are really cool. You know, like all the bunker systems that were built in various countries and like the early warning systems. Cheek filter masks, it depends what you want them for, William. I mean, I'd say the best cheek filter masks are probably the M17A2 and the Soviet PBF, just simply because they're kind of the most practical and working cheek filter masks for what they are. But bear in mind, you're not going to be able to get new filters for them. So it's basically only really good for like particle threats, you know, maybe stuff like tear gas. You wouldn't want to risk using it against anything, you know. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. One of the interesting things about the Soviet Union was that they actually built massive, massive civil bunkers. The UK did not do that. The UK basically took the option of building bunkers for the elite in society. Everybody else could die. It was, you know, so as much as the Soviets murdered a lot of their own people, they did at least consider them in terms of civil defense, which the UK and the US basically didn't. In the 60s, the 50s and 60s, the US actually had the CDV program, you know, just the civil defense program that was pretty good, but they abandoned that again, like the UK did. You know, going into the 60s to the 70s, it was kind of considered, you know, public shelters and all that were just considered a waste of time. But part of the reason it was also considered a waste of time in the UK is the size of the land mass compares to the size of the yield of bombs. That basically, if the Soviets wanted to, they could have wiped out every sort of square mile of Earth here. There was a funny thing where basically the MOD had, like, you know, assumed during the Cold War, you know, like the Soviets would throw this many nukes at London with this much yield kind of thing, you know. So they thought London would be wiped out, but they thought, you know, they'd do it with however many megatons. And after the Cold War, apparently, like, the Russians admitted, like, they actually had more missiles of higher yields assigned to London. So it's like, oh, London would be even more flattened than you thought, you know. Cool, I will do, Snoz. I've been to quite a few of the nature reserves because my dad used to really like bird watching. Well, he still does. So, you know, if ever I went away with him somewhere, he'd like to get a day, you know, out where he'd take me bird watching somewhere. Um, is this the book or is it something else? Because there's a 4-book series coming up when I Google it. The Eastern North Yorkshire coastline, is it that one? Yeah, I find all that stuff pretty interesting. Burner account was saying something about filters, but I don't think his entire message came through. Yeah, I saw some puffins in Scotland, Snoz. Whereabouts was it in Scotland I saw them? All right, however I pronounce your name, Morty Bianca, is that how I say it? Have you got a proper verified tick, or is that some way where you found a way of getting a tick in next to your name? Let me look on the map. I think it wasn't too far away from Glams or Glamis Castle, however it's pronounced. Glamis Castle. So if I look on the map, I think it was somewhere near there. So let's have a look where that is on the map of Scotland. Then we'll go to the coast. So probably could have been Montrose, could have been, but if you go east of Glamis Castle, or Glamis Castle, however it's pronounced, on the map and look at all those bits, I think it's because we did go to Aberdeen, so I think it had been somewhere on the coast down from Aberdeen we saw puffins. Because what we did is when we went to Scotland, we went to Fort William on the first day, went up and stayed for a few days on Harrison Lewis, near Stornoway. Then we went to wherever the ferry took you back. Is it Ullapool? I think it's Ullapool, where the ferry like dropped us off. And then we took the car, you know, on various campsites around the coast, going down, Inverness. Then I think it was Aberdeen, you know, going around the coast. I think that's how we did it. Yes, you are. I mean, whether or not a shop in the UK says, oh, we don't like you wearing that, please take it off, I don't know. But there's no law saying you can't wear a mask. Sadly, I've not, Akio. It's something I'd definitely like to do. I've done camping before with people where we've stayed in places we probably shouldn't stay, in the sense like not on a proper campsite. But I've not done it alone. I've done it with mates before, you know, where you go into the woods that probably a private property, you know, and we never make a mess or whatever. But I've not done that in years. That's the problem. Like, so much stuff like that, you know. Really wish I'd done that again. No, we didn't end up through Dundee, Flazzy. We went to... I assume we went pretty much across land after we went to the castle. To go to Edinburgh. Like, the next stop... we might have stopped in Perth, I can't remember. But we definitely stopped in Edinburgh, because we were in Edinburgh for a day, and then the next day we were back home, and we looked at Hadrian's Wall on the way back. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't go to the wrong areas of Glasgow or Dundee, Flazzy, so I'm all right. I mean, there were people when we were there who were like, oh, you English bastards, we're going to become independent. And that was back before the first referendum. I say the first one because I'm sure Nicola wants the second one, doesn't she? But you know, all right, Mr. Chernobyl, yeah, hopefully in a month or two, a couple of months. But all right, cool. I definitely want to go there at some point, Pug Pop. One of my mates is probably moving back to Leeds at some point. So when he moves up there, he said I'm welcome to stay with him at any time. So when I'm staying in Leeds for a week or two, I will book a thing to Royal Armouries because we both want to go again. Like, well, I don't know if I've ever been there. He's been a few times. Well, what sucks about it, Scotland the Brave? Well, like Top Hat Man, as I've said before loads of times, I don't really give a shit in most of the ways. It's like with Welsh independence, Scottish independence, all those things. If the people in the country overwhelmingly vote for it, they should have it, you know. It's not my decision. I don't care. But, you know, I don't really kind of get a lot of the stuff to do with it. Rock climbing's pretty cool burner account. I've never done really real rock climbing. I've done the stuff before in like gyms, you know, where you have like the harness on and they have like a like plastic wall type thing. But yeah, I don't want this stream to turn into people arguing about Scottish independence because they do that enough on TV. Like I've said, I've not read up enough on the economic stuff to pretend I understand if it would be good for the Scots or not. Yeah, well, Mars, what I'll have to do is do a members stream at some point closer to the time, and then I might be able to let people know, like, I can go to the Royal Armouries on this date if people also want to go there on this date sort of thing. But like I said, I don't know when that will be, because it'll be whenever my friend moves there and then he says, like, oh, could you come down for this week when you've got, like, holiday from work type stuff. Yeah, I've been to Yorkshire before quite a few times. I like Yorkshire. But like I said, I don't know if I've been to Leeds Armoury. That's the thing. It's like one of the places I definitely like to go because of the contents of it. I just don't know if I've been there before. I can't remember. Well, I know that obviously the US gun laws vary a lot in state to state, don't they? But I personally like the idea of people being allowed to own firearms. Queen's Ferry, let me Google it, and I can tell you, because it might jog my memory, but like I said, I can remember the roughly. Queen's Ferry. That looks too built up from what's coming up on the image. It was like some cliffs on the coast. But like I said, I can't remember exactly which bit. I think there was like an RSPB kind of load of shelters there. But like I said, I might get my memory jogged, I might not. But my dad did all the driving on that holiday, because this was, I think it was when my C3 had the issues and I hadn't bought the Golf yet, if I remember. And I think the issue was, or maybe I got the Golf, I can't remember, but I think the issue was that although I could drive, I couldn't be insured on my dad's car. And it meant my dad had to do all the driving because we took his Fiat Panda. Well, considering I just replied to you, I'm right. Seeing as you want to start an argument by the look of it, goodbye. But yes, considering I said, right, I'm going to search Queen's Ferry, and then I Googled Queen's Ferry, but obviously not paying attention. What's the most likely reason for somebody to use a gas mask in modern day COVID? Yeah, the thing is, I've been to a lot of bits of the UK, Oliver. Fuzzy, I'll have a look at another point properly. I might do it on a members stream where I can actually look for a bit longer at the places. There was a really annoying thing on one stream where when I was doing a stream, I could not get something to come up that I was thinking of. As soon as I finished the stream, I found it. If Mike's on, he'll remember what it was. It was that like round like artillery battery thing on the coast, wherever it was. But I could not. Right. Which place was it that we looked up? Let's see. Was it Eastbourne? I'm trying to remember now. Let's look on the map. Eastbourne. Is it Eastbourne? Yeah, Eastbourne Redoubt. That's it. Eastbourne Redoubt. That was the one I was looking for when I was mentioning about an artillery fort in a seaside town. And that was the one I was thinking of. But so for the people back, I can have a quick look, Flazzy, but like I said, I probably have to ask my dad and see if he remembers. So Fraserburgh, let's. No, I've not heard of that armor. What is it? But I know we didn't go into like an actual place itself. You know, like if it was an RSPB thing, it was obviously outside of an actual thing. All right. So, yeah, if that's between, like I said, that's between Inverness and Aberdeen, that could very well have been the place. But yeah, it was quite cliffy. It was like cliff roads, and then there was a bit where you went closer to the coast, and then you walked on foot up and down a little bit, and then there was loads of puffins on the rocks there, which is really cool to see them. But yeah. What was that, Steve, about jets? Oh, sorry. So you were replying to what? There are loads of army planes going past Liverpool. Any idea what they're doing? So they're probably Hawk training jets from RAF Valley. Oh, no, I see. You said then two what up. Yeah, I get you. You can do in the chat. If you're on a mobile, Steve, you can't really do it as easily. But on the PC, if you do at like you're doing an email, the A like that, you'd start typing their name. It will do their name and highlight it so it goes to the person specifically. That's interesting, Cornelio. So basically, so it's a bit like that dragon skin idea, is it? That you get like the flexible armor, but it gives you much better protection. That sounds really good. But again, has it been tested enough that it works in all the conditions? Ah, yeah, Steve. Yeah, so that's the problem. If you're on a mobile, I know that doesn't work as well. Yep, you can legally own plate carriers, no license, nothing like that, Benito. Just buy them on eBay if you want. You might sometimes have issues with stuff if they're not technically meant to be surplus, as in like they're stolen MOD property. But I have got, if I didn't, right, this one hasn't got plates in it currently. But yeah, you can buy either like the old army ones, other nations' armies ones built for the civilian market. All sorts of body armor in the UK is not restricted whatsoever. So, yeah, I've got Piotr sent me a really heavy Polish set of body armor that has like steel plates in it. It's really cool, but it's super heavy. I can certainly understand why, like ultra high molecular weight polyethylene is becoming a lot more popular than steel or ceramic plates. I've not M1984, but I'm going to Google it now. And hello to Sweden, AK, if I didn't already say that. And I'll be off in a minute because I've been on for an hour. And I want to open the door so I can set my aircon back up properly because I've only got the fan on at the moment. And the heat builds up really fast in here. All right, let's have a look at that knife. Yeah, that looks nice. Looks nice. Well, it is a knife. Looks nice. Out of the ones coming up, I definitely prefer the one without the, what do you call it? I can't even think of the bloody word for it now. Like the saw type blade thing on the back of serrated. Is that it? I prefer the one with like the straight back rather than the serrated back. But yeah, it looks like a very nice handle and all that. Like I said, out of all the knives I've got, the MOD knife is the one that I probably would be the best outdoor knife that I've got. But it's not like the best all-round knife. It depends what you'd want the knife for. Hello to you in Brazil, then. The only problem, Tracy, is it's quite hard to know what the prices of masks are now. Just in the sense that COVID has made the prices go crazy. In terms of like Warsaw Pact, the Czech ones are quite good, like the Czech CM3, that's basically the same as the Polish MC1 anyway, so you might not want to get a CM3. The Czech CM4, the Czech M10 and M10M, which I'm not a massive fan of, but they're quite cool masks if you just wanted it for like it looking cool. I mean, it's basically a USM 9A1 top hat, man, so it's perfectly adequate, but, it's probably like the worst of the M9A1 clones. If you want a really good M9, you get a Finnish M61, just because it's an M9 built to much better standards than the American one. Yeah, Finnish masks, as in the Finnish M61. The Finns make really, really good masks. The Finnish World War II civilian mask is better than most military World War II masks, to give you an idea of how good Finnish masks are. It's called the Finnish M39, isn't it? Like Model 39, 1939, the civilian mask. And that's really good. But anyway, yeah, I'll head off now. Have a good evening, everybody. And thanks to the person that donated, asking about the radium, because that always helps out. I'll read Cornelio's thing before I go off. He says, I don't like the steel plates from the Polish armor. I don't think it's any spall coating on it in the firearm shootout bits of. Yeah, I know what spall is. So yeah, there is rubber type stuff on the back, but I don't know how good that would, like rubbery foam stuff, but I don't know how good that would be for spalling. But yeah, I agree. It's like, I think that plate is to give you more protection than like what you'd get with like the filler alone. But yeah, it's not as good. But it's kind of like an older gen of armor, isn't it, that stuff? But saying that, the plate is in front of the Kevlar filler anyway, so wouldn't the Kevlar filling protect you from spalling? But I suppose it depends where the spalling flies off at, wouldn't it? Because if it, yeah, like you say, if it goes into a bit where you're not protected, yeah, it's hard to say. And obviously, like I said, I wouldn't get myself shot on purpose with the armor on to test if it saves my life or not. But anyway, right. See you all. Have a good evening. Goodbye. Oh, Dan, you came on just as I'm finishing. I've been on for an hour and 4 minutes. I started at 8 at my usual time. I'll do a members stream tomorrow if it works. So anyway, I don't mind starting one tomorrow at 9 p.m. if that's a better time for you. But yeah, anyway, I'll be off now because, like I said, I've been on for over an hour. So, you know, I want to go and cool the room down again. Right, see ya. And I might move some more stuff from this room if I can be bothered. Save doing it tomorrow. Right, see ya.